Truong ran down the sunlit road, his heart pounding like something deep inside was pushing him forward. Ahead of him, that familiar figure, a woman who somehow felt like part of his past, was walking slowly. He didn't know why, but he felt that if he hesitated even for a second, he might lose something forever. The distance between them was just a few steps, but it felt like the line between forgetting and remembering, between losing and finding again. The wind blew softly, her dress swayed, and a faint scent carried back to him, stirring something buried deep in his memory. Will Truong recognized Tieu Nu, the woman who once meant everything to him? Or will fate make their hearts miss each other once more for the last time? Stay with me to see how this journey unfolds, where memory, love, and destiny meet. That afternoon, a cool breeze drifted down from the hills, carrying the scent of ripe rice mixed with fresh straw, the kind of peace that only the countryside can offer. On the small dirt path leading to the gate, Tieu Nu bowed her head to thank the older woman who had helped her through the harvest. Truong's mother smiled kindly and held her hand. "Come visit when you have time, dear. My house is nearby." Tieu Nu nodded, a gentle smile on her lips. Warmth spread through her heart after so many lonely days. The sunset light brushed her shoulders, her hair swaying softly in the wind. She didn't know that from the backyard, a man was quietly watching her Truong. He had just returned from the forest, still holding a bundle of firewood. The sweat on his shirt had dried, but as soon as he saw that slender figure in the sunlight, his exhaustion faded. He froze in place, heart pounding. Something inside him stirred, familiar yet painful, like a memory too deep to reach. He didn't know who she was, but a voice inside whispered, "She matters." Truong dropped the firewood and stood tall. The woman was walking away, her figure shrinking in the golden light. Unease rose within him, pushing him forward. 1 step, 2 steps. Then he began to run. His footsteps echoed on the dry ground, blending with the rustling wind. He didn't understand why, only that if he let her leave, he might lose something forever. "Hey!" he called out, but his voice was hoarse and the wind swallowed it. Tieu Nu, reaching the narrow path, turned around when she heard footsteps behind her, but saw only the trees moving. Thinking it was the wind, she kept walking, her thoughts still lingering on the day's conversations. The faster Truong ran, the harder his heart pounded. Sweat soaked his shirt. The old wound in his chest ached, but he didn't stop. The sight of her brown dress just ahead pulled him forward. Then suddenly, she disappeared around the bend. He stopped, gasping, staring at the empty road. A gust of wind blew by, lifting dust into the fading light. He stood there for a long time, fragments of sound flickering in his mind, someone calling his name in the rain, a child's laughter, a woman's quiet sigh. It all felt real, yet unreachable. He grabbed his head as a sharp pain struck. For a second, blurry images flashed: a woman crying, holding her stomach, the wind sweeping across a field, a small boy calling him uncle. Truong snapped his eyes open. Everything was gone. Only the orange glow of sunset stretched over the rice fields. He took a shaky breath, still staring in the direction she'd gone, a hollow ache in his chest, as if he had just lost something precious he couldn't name. Walking back slowly, his hands trembled, his mind echoing with fragments, laughter, glances, and a soft voice calling Truong. He stopped in the yard, looked up at the darkening sky. A lone bird cried in the distance, breaking the stillness. Truong whispered, "Who is she? And why does my heart hurt like this?" The evening wind carried the faint scent of flowers. It was too familiar, like a piece of life he once knew. He turned toward the fading horizon, eyes full of unspoken longing. Not far away, Tieu Nu kept walking, her heart strangely restless. She didn't understand why leaving that house made her heart race, as if someone had been watching her close, yet unseen. The evening deepened. Two souls, one staying, one leaving, both stirred by the same invisible connection, as if their hearts had brushed against each other in the wind. Truong didn't know that just a few more steps and he would have seen her face. And Tieu Nu didn't know that the woman she had just said goodbye to was Truong's mother. And the man standing outside that house was him. So under the golden light of that afternoon, two people who once loved each other deeply missed each other again. But not forever, because fate had already decided where there is waiting, there will be a reunion. The afternoon breeze drifted softly through the air. The sun had sunk low, spreading a faint golden glow over the old wooden house and the patch of grass by the yard. Truong was still standing there on the dirt path leading to the gate, his eyes fixed on the direction where the woman had just disappeared. His heart kept pounding as if he had just lost something deeply important that he couldn't name. A familiar voice broke the silence. "Truong, what are you doing out there?" He turned around. His mother was standing on the porch, holding a basket of fresh vegetables she had just picked from the garden. Her voice was warm, carrying a trace of concern. Truong blinked and slowly walked toward her, his steps heavy, but his mind restless. "Mom." He hesitated. There was a girl. I don't know why, but when I saw her, my chest hurt. She set the basket on the table, her gentle eyes studying his face. Surprise flickered across her expression. "You mean the girl who helped me harvest rice this afternoon?" Truong nodded. His gaze wandered toward the fading sunlight outside. "I don't remember who she is. I don't even remember my own past. But when I saw her walking away, something in me felt so familiar, so strong, that my heart wouldn't listen." His voice trembled. Each word carried the weight of confusion and longing. His mother sighed and placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Don't push yourself too hard to remember. Things will come back when they're meant to. Maybe she's just someone you happened to meet, but if she felt special to you, then maybe there's a reason." Truong said nothing. The wind slipped through the window, swaying the curtain. In his eyes, a small spark had been lit, a feeling he thought he'd lost since waking up from pain and emptiness. He sat down, elbows resting on his knees. "Mom, I've been trying to remember for weeks, but my mind's blank. I don't know who I was where I lived, or if I had a family. I only know that in my dreams, there's a woman. She's standing in a rice field calling my name. Every time I try to reach her, I wake up." His mother stayed silent, fingers interlaced tightly. She knew how much her son had suffered, both in body and in spirit. When she found him on the edge of the forest, covered in blood and barely breathing, she thought she'd lose him. But he survived, and that alone made her believe he still had something left to fulfill. She sat down beside him, her voice soft. "The girl you saw today, maybe she's the one from your dream. I only met her for the first time this afternoon. We worked together, harvesting for some families near the hill. She's kind and quiet, very hardworking. She told me she's from another region doing odd jobs, staying with a friend." Truong's eyes brightened with a trace of hope. "Do you know where she lives?" His mother shook her head. "No, she just said her house was destroyed by floods and she's staying temporarily." I didn't ask more. "I didn't realize you noticed her like that." He lowered his head. "I don't know why, but it felt like I've held her hand before, heard her laugh before. When she left, I wanted to call her back, but my throat just closed up. I've never felt something that strong before." His mother looked at him with quiet sorrow. In his eyes, she saw a man caught between reality and the fragments of a forgotten life. She understood something inside him hadn't vanished. Maybe love, maybe destiny, but something real. She smiled faintly, patting his hand. "Don't worry, maybe fate brought her here for a reason. If it's meant to be, you'll see her again. If I meet her, I'll invite her over. Then you can talk to her. Maybe that will help you remember." Truong looked up, hope flickering. "You think so, Mom? You really think I'll see her again?" She nodded. "I do. Nothing happens by accident. That girl came here today for a reason." He smiled softly the first time in weeks. "If I see her again, I'll ask. I need to know who she is and why seeing her hurt so much." His mother placed a sweater over his shoulders. "It's getting cold. Come inside, dear. Don't stay out too long." He followed her back in. The oil lamp glowed warm against the wooden walls, casting their shadows together. She talked to him gently, asking if he'd eaten if his head still hurt. He barely answered. His mind was still filled with the image of that woman. When his mother went to wash the dishes, Truong stepped out again. Twilight had fallen. Far down the road, a thin layer of mist began to rise. He stood there quietly, hands in his pockets, staring toward where Tieu Nu had gone. Warmth and sadness filled his chest all at once. He whispered to himself, "If we really knew each other, please let me meet you again." Not far away, Tieu Nu was walking toward the marketplace. She stopped for a moment, watching the red sky fade in the distance. Her heart beat faster, for reasons she couldn't explain, as if someone had been watching her close but unseen. Night came. Crickets sang outside. Truong lay on his wooden bed, unable to sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, she appeared, her hair blowing in the wind, her gentle smile, her sad eyes. In his dream, she turned and called his name, but he couldn't make out the words. Suddenly, he sat up, heart-racing sweat on his forehead. He whispered, "Tieu Nu." The name flashed through his mind like a faint spark in the dark. He tried to hold on to it, but it slipped away, leaving only warmth and a dull ache in his chest. Outside, his mother was still awake, sitting by the window, looking at the moon peeking through the bamboo. Her mind wandered. That girl today. There's something about her, she thought. That smile, those eyes. I can't shake the feeling. She didn't know that the invisible thread between Tieu Nu and her son was already tightening, pulling them closer little by little until one day, soon, they would meet again. Not in dreams this time, but in reality, where love was never truly forgotten. The next morning came quietly. Dew clung to the blades of grass, and soft sunlight filtered through the bamboo grove behind the house. Truong sat on the wooden steps, sipping a cup of warm tea his mother had just poured. The scent of smoke from the kitchen mixed with the earthy smell of damp soil, familiar grounding, yet his mind drifted elsewhere. His mother watched him from inside, pretending to sweep the floor while stealing glances. Ever since that afternoon, Truong had changed. He was calmer, quieter, but his eyes, once dull and distant, now held something alive. Hope, maybe. Or longing. "Mom," he said after a while, his voice low. "If she really lives nearby, I want to help you with the next harvest. Maybe she'll come again." His mother smiled faintly. "Then we'll go together. Who knows, fate might not be done with you two yet." He nodded, eyes lost in thought. The name Tieu Nu still echoed faintly in his head. Every time he whispered it, a strange warmth spread through his chest, like a missing piece trying to return to its place. Days passed. Truong worked around the house, helping the neighbors repair fences and chop firewood. At night, when the world grew quiet, he'd look toward the road, waiting, though he didn't know for what exactly. Meanwhile, in another part of the village, Tieu Nu was living in a small rented room with her friend Lin. She spent her days working in the fields, her nights sewing by a dim oil lamp. But lately, her thoughts had been restless. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw a man's silhouette standing in the sunlight, eyes full of something she couldn't explain. "Are you okay?" Lin asked one evening. Seeing her friend lost in thought, Tieu Nu hesitated, then smiled weakly. "I met someone. I didn't really meet him. He didn't even speak to me. But when I left, I felt like I was walking away from something important." Lin laughed softly. "Sounds like someone's heart remembers what the mind forgot." Tieu Nu looked down her hands, clutching the fabric on her lap. "Maybe. But it's strange. I don't even know his name. Just his eyes. They felt like home." That night, while Truong stared at the same moon from miles away, Tieu Nu sat by her window, doing the same. Both thought of each other, without knowing why, connected by something unseen yet real. A week later, the village prepared for the monthly market fair. Truong's mother decided to bring vegetables and crafts to sell. Truong offered to help carry the baskets. When they arrived, the marketplace was crowded full of voices, laughter, and colors. Truong followed his mother through the stalls, distracted, until he suddenly froze. At the other end of the square, under a yellow awning, a familiar figure was kneeling by a display of handmade scarves. Her hair caught the sunlight, and for a brief second, she turned. Their eyes met. Time stopped. The noise around them faded. Truong's heart pounded hard, the same ache rising again. But this time, it felt closer to clarity. He took a step forward, then another. Tieu Nu blinked, her hands trembling, as recognition, not from memory, but from the soul, swept through her. Neither of them spoke. But in that brief moment, something within both hearts whispered the same truth. They had found each other again. For a few seconds, the world around them seemed to dissolve. The chatter of the market, the sound of bargaining, the laughter of children, all faded into silence. Truong stood frozen in place. His breath caught somewhere between disbelief and recognition. His chest tightened, not from confusion this time, but from something deeper, almost painful in its familiarity. Tieu Nu's lips parted slightly. She didn't understand why her hands trembled, or why her eyes burned with tears she hadn't meant to shed. All she knew was that the man standing there, dusty shirt, gentle eyes, felt like someone her heart had known long before her mind could remember. Truong took another hesitant step. "Miss," He began, but his voice faltered. He didn't even know what he was going to say. Her name, that name, was right on the edge of his tongue, but it wouldn't come out. Tieu Nu turned away for a moment, pretending to fix the scarves on the table. Her heart pounded so hard she could barely breathe. "Can I help you?" she asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. He shook his head. "No, I just thought I'd seen you somewhere before." She looked up, then really looked at him, and for the briefest instant, her soul trembled. That same tone, that same way of looking at her. She forced a small smile. "Maybe. This village isn't that big." He nodded, but his eyes lingered. A silence stretched between them, filled with things neither could explain. Truong's mother called out from behind him, "Truong, bring the basket here." He turned slightly, answering her, and when he looked back, Tieu Nu was gone. She had slipped into the crowd, her heart pounding as she walked away, afraid that staying another second would make her break down completely. That night, Truong couldn't sleep. He sat by the window, staring into the dark, hearing her voice echo faintly in his ears. Every little thing about her, the way she moved, the way her eyes softened when she smiled, kept looping through his mind. He pressed a hand to his chest. "Why do I feel like I've lost her?" before he murmured. Across the village, Tieu Nu sat alone outside her small house. The night air was cool, carrying the sound of crickets. She looked up at the moon, whispering, "Why does it hurt like this when we've only just met?" A light breeze brushed her cheek, the same breeze that moved through Truong's window at that exact moment. Two hearts, one memory, separated only by the fog of forgotten time. The next morning, Truong woke before sunrise. He told his mother he was going out for a walk and headed toward the market road again. He didn't know if she'd be there, but something inside him wouldn't let him stay home. At the same time, Tieu Nu was already out bringing breakfast to an old vendor she often helped. As she crossed the narrow bridge, she looked up, and there he was walking toward her from the other side. Both stopped. The mist hung low over the water, sunlight spilling through in faint streaks. Truong's lips moved this time with certainty. "Tieu Nu," he whispered. Her eyes widened. Tears gathered instantly. You remember me?" He shook his head slowly, a small, trembling smile forming. "Not with my mind, but with my heart. I never forgot you." And in that fragile dawn, with the scent of morning earth and the first call of birds, two lost souls finally stood face to face, not as strangers, but as those who had found their way back through the quiet pull of destiny.